All right, well, thank you guys, and I'm really excited to be here today, and it's not just me today. Sean, right here, this big, tall, goofy, dull guy, which you'll find out he's a clown. You guys are going to laugh at it later. Sean and I are part of a group called Leadership Eastside, and what that is it's a group in East King County that cultivates leaders to come out into the community and do great things. And so Sean and I are part of a team of people who are working in East King County, and we got together and we figured out what can we do, what can we go out in the community and do, and we realized that we think there are a lot of jobs out there, a lot of careers and a lot of paths out there that people can take that don't always require your typical four-year college degree. And we also started to realize that the best way to get out there and talk about this was to get in front of students like yourself all around East King County. So we plan on doing this in a ton of schools all around East King County to talk to students just like you who might be thinking about, what am I going to do? Like, after I leave this place, what am I going to do? Right? Like, when I was your age and I was sitting there, I didn't know what I was going to do. Now, I went the typical four-year college degree path. I got my degree and I got out of college and I still was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I want to do. So I just took a job and I meandered around for a while and I didn't like it. In fact, I hated it. And I left and went on to do other stuff. I'm finally in a position now where I love what I do. But it wasn't because I went to college that I found that out. And so what we wanted to do was come and talk to students and enlighten you maybe and show you some real world examples of potential careers and jobs out there that might make you a lot of money, but it might also be in something that you really love to do. And it might be something that you didn't know was even out there, or you might think you have to have a college degree to do something like that. But we want to bring you real-world examples to learn about this, to see that there's potential out there to do a whole lot of really cool stuff and make good money, but also love what you do if it's in line with what you're passionate about. And that's really what we want to expose you guys to and bring to you today. Someone who's doing awesome stuff. I mean, how many of you think building airplanes sounds pretty cool? I mean, I think it does. He's doing that as a career, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about that and how he got to in that position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Sean. Sean works for Boeing. Who here has heard of Boeing? Yeah, right? Pretty cool company. And Sean's going to tell you a little bit about himself, and then he's going to talk a little bit about his coworker, and we're going to hear some of the awesome stuff he's doing in his career, how he got there. So I want everybody, real quick, I want you guys to give Sean a big round of applause, the big, tall, goofy blonde guy.
So as Nate said, Daryl, my buddy, and I, we both work for Boeing. And we are in meetings several times a day, many times a week together. Just by first glance, you can see that Daryl and I physically, we don't resemble each other. And how we got to those meetings and those tables are two completely different paths. How we both ended up at the same table working for a company that, as Nate is hinting at, that you make a pretty decent living at. My wife is a mechanic still at Boeing. I work in training and so does Daryl. My wife's a mechanic at Boeing, and she used to be a buyer for children's shoes for Nordstrom. And she went to work for Boeing 7 years ago, and in 6 years, she's making $75,000 a year to build airplanes. One of the things I tell people is if you remember back, it's harder for me, hopefully a little easier for you, when you were like first, second grade, and you were saying, what do I want to be when I grow up? I wanted to be the shortstop for the San Francisco Giants. At that time, because I'm really old, they were the closest baseball team, and I was a baseball fiend, and that's what I wanted to be. It turns out I can't hit, and I can't field, and I can't throw, so being a shortstop is problematic. But if somebody on the playground had said, I want to build airplanes, I would have thought, that's pretty cool. And that's what we do. We build airplanes at our factory, and every once in a while when I think that all the petty stuff I'm dealing with matters, I go stand next to a 747 and watch it get built. And it is freaking amazing when you're looking at this airplane. It is, you just go, wow, there's like 3 million parts, handmade, put together to build an airplane for somebody in the world to then fly for the next 40 years. Yeah, that airplane, in essence, is handmade. It's not machine-made. There's a person operating every last machine that makes the parts, and then they put it all together. So I'm not going to tell you too much about airplane building without wasting any more of your time, I'll introduce Daryl. He's going to tell you a story about how he got to the Boeing company, and then I'll follow up telling you my story about how I ended up there, and then we'll field some questions. Right?
Thanks, John.
Daryl, everybody, give it up for Daryl.
Growing up in Skagit County, rural area, that was before I-5 was in. So when I grew up, to go to Seattle was a chore. To go to Bellingham in Canada was a chore. It's a 2-lane road. I remember the freeway coming in. I'm going, cool. One of these days, I'm going to come and I'm going to start at the Canadian border and go all the way down to the Mexican border. I said, I don't know when I'm going to do it. I didn't have my driver's license then, but that was a passion of mine. I wanted to do that, and I did it. Another thing was going through high school. I was quite bored in high school, but that was no alternative. That was what the path was, to go to high school. And then to go to college wasn't something that interested me. But as I was in middle school, I worked with machinery. You know, I did woodworking. In high school, I was in a metal shop, mechanics, welding, things of this nature in school. I liked that type of vocation. And so when I got out of high school, what was I going to do? And that was number one though, because I had a choice to make. Was I going to get my high school graduating certificate and move on, or was I not? And I had to sit there and think, well, I'm 18 now, I better get that high school diploma or GED. And I got a high school diploma because that was the one stepping stone that I had to have to do anything else in life I wanted to go do. Which was not easy because it wasn't a question that I knew automatically what I wanted to do. Okay? It wasn't that I grew up and said to myself, I'm going to go to work at Boeing. It wasn't that at all. But I liked working with my hands, and I liked motorcycles. Okay? And I love motorcycles. So I love tattoos, I love motorcycles, I like zip lining. Anything that gets me up in the air or on the road fast, I like it. And so nevertheless, it's like, okay, I thought to myself, and my friends too, you know, some of my friends were going to college, others weren't. And then we started thinking about, what are we going to do? So I said, well, I'm going to go in the military. My dad was a World War II veteran. I said, as much as I don't fit into that model, I'm going to do it for a certain amount of years because I can fit into anything for a certain amount of time and learn something. So I traveled. I went across the United States, went to Europe in the U.S. Army, and I learned a trade that was transferable from there, hydraulics, electrical, fire control, and I could transfer that to plane building. Because along the way, I started thinking about, if I came back to Washington State to live, what do I want to do as a career? And I thought, hey, military is big, it's a big machine, so is Boeing. It's a big machine. It wouldn't be that hard to transfer from the military over to Boeing and be comfortable in a building that houses about 40,000 people. And I found that that transition was pretty cool. But it's not like I got out of the military, even though I was qualified, to go right to work at Boeing. Okay, so I went and I applied. There was an opening, I've got background, I'm going to get a job. Simple, right? Well, it wasn't. I went in and they gave me a 5x7 card in those days to fill out. This was 1980, and I filled out a 5x7 card. That was my application. I handed it in, I went home, waited. Nothing. So I went down that next week, and I remember where the lady got the 5x7 cards. And so she didn't happen to be right in that office at that time. And so I jumped up on the counter, I reached behind and I grabbed the stack of 5x7 cards. And I immediately left. And I went out in my truck and I wrote another application. I handed it in. Then I went home. Each Monday I would go down to the Boeing company and I'd hand in a 5x7 application card for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd hand them in, I'd leave. Next Monday, I went back down, and during the week, I was filling out my 5x7 cards. I did that week after week, month after month, until I got a phone call. Okay? What did I have to lose? I had nothing to lose other than, you know, them telling me don't come back and hand in another 5x7 card. But they didn't. And by the time I got hired, by the time I got the interview, they opened up my folder, and all these 5x7 cards were there. And do you think I didn't already list my qualifications? I did on the first 20 5x7 cards. At the end, I was writing, hi, it's Daryl. I'm back. I can do this. Just give me a chance. And it was then I got a phone call. So they never said, you know, anything about that, but that was perseverance. And that's what I mean, is whatever you want to do in life, you can do it, but what's your passion? passion for me is motorcycle riding. But I didn't want to work on motorcycles because my friends that do during the summer, they're working. They're working hard to maintain everybody else's motorcycles so they can go out and ride. But they didn't get any time off during the summertime because they were working. So I thought, well, let me go work on aircraft, and then I could ride my motorcycle in the summertime when I take some time off. So it's just a matter of what do you want to do? What gets you up in the morning? You know, what's your passion? You know, it really comes down to what is your passion? And so I worked as a mechanic for 10 years. I was a test mechanic on the 767, and then I went in on the 47, and I worked on the first 747-400 derivative, and then I worked on about 500 planes after that. And then in 1996, we were doing a lot of hiring, and so my management got with me and said, Daryl, we want you up in training to help train the new mechanics that are going to come into our shop. And I said, okay. That was a 3-month program. 3 months. After 3 months, they decided that they needed people on staff, and I really enjoyed what I was doing, working with people. And so I've stayed in training, and so I've got 29, just short of 29 years with Boeing. But the bottom line is that's my passion. I really like working with people, and I like working with groups of folks that come in and they might be struggling with one aspect of plane building, and I really like to take them under my wing and say, okay, let's work. We can get to the end result of what is it going to take, right? And then just really connecting with people and understanding what their motivations are and where they're at, skill and knowledge-wise, and then putting that all together. But if you really want to do something, you can do it. But it's going to take some perseverance. You're going to have to work hard at certain aspects because it's not easy to build planes. If it was easy to build planes, a lot of companies would be doing it. But we're working within the thousandths of an inch. We're building the aircraft. And so my tolerance ranges on the plane was 3/1000ths of an inch. Okay, I was a structures mechanic, so I built the structures of the plane. So you're going to put a hole on a round tube. It's got to be 2 degrees angularity, and we typically are going to close tolerance holes, which is 0.187, 0.19 hole of a hole size, 3/1000ths of an inch for a 3/16 fastener. So we work with fractions, we work with decimals, but it's easy. You know, once you learn your basic math skills, then you just apply that in different manners. And after a while, it resonates, and you're going, hey, I can do that. Well, I get that. It's coming together, right? You know. And so, nevertheless, whatever you want to do, Boeing's a great company. There's other great companies. Again, I'm going to come back to one thing. What is your passion? What gets you up in the morning? What do you want to do? What do you see yourself doing in 5 to 10 years? I always tell employees at work, every 5 years, take a look at your career. Don't get stagnant, because then your attitude can suffer. Okay? If you're getting stagnant, if your attitude is suffering, then you need to change. You need to change your course. You don't have to change a career. You don't have to change a company to change jobs. That's one thing about Boeing, is it's got hundreds of jobs. And Boeing will help you understand what your next step is, what's your next level. You know, at one time I didn't want to be in management because I was enjoying working on the plane. And then I got to a point and I'm going, you know, I want to go teach people. So I went on training and taught people how to work on planes. And then it was a natural progression to saying, okay, I want to lead some teams. And so I lead a biz operations team, and I lead a curriculum development team that we build curriculum and embed video for the faculty. And so it's fun. I've got a bunch of people that report to me, and then I help with another team that's called the compliance team. And they do different types of auditing and NARS, and I'll throw some acronyms out there that you won't understand, but nevertheless, we've got to be compliant with the FAA when we're building the plane. That are our oversight to make sure that we're doing everything that we said we're going to do. So that's kind of my story in a short, condensed version. But again, you know, life's fun. You know, I'm over 57 years old now. Life is still fun. I still get passion getting up in the morning. I can still ride a motorcycle across country. You know, and it's those type of things that I really enjoy. But I enjoy my job too. I enjoy working with Sean. I enjoy working with a team of people that are moving the company forward. 2016, Boeing becomes a 100-year company. Okay? How many companies out there can say they've been in business for 100 years? Right? Ford Motor Company, Harley Davidson. Okay? When did they start? They've been around a long time, haven't they?
They've been around.
You know, they've been around a long time. But nevertheless, you see, that you're going to have trials and tribulations in a company, right? To be able to be successful in business, you have to change, right? Harley Davidson right now is coming out with a battery operated motorcycle. And traditionalists are going, but it's a battery. But there are certain people in certain demographic areas in cities that they find that very attractive, right? So you've got to be able to go out and say, okay, who's my customer base? And who am I going to change? And what are we going to do to make sure that we can hit the mark with them, as well as some traditionalists that like their gasoline-powered motorcycle. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Sean, and then we can come back with any questions that you might have.
So, I'm not going to tell you as much about the Boeing company as Daryl. I've only been with the Boeing company 7.5 years, and I'm there by a complete fluke. What I will tell you about is who I am and how I got there, and whether or not any of this resonates with you. So, I come from a family of 10 boys. I was the 6th of my mother and father's 6 boys that they had. And then my mother and father got divorced, and she remarried a guy who had 3 boys, and they had a boy together, and that's how we got to 10 boys in the family. As the 6th of a family of 6 boys, short of homicide, there was nothing I could do that was going to get my parents' attention. My parents were both alcoholics, and they were in their own world. My older brother, he left, joined the military, married a Filipino woman, 25 years his senior, and basically left home. My next brother once got arrested twice in one night. My next brother, he's dead now. That's the brother who's dead. He smoked himself to death at the age of 43. He literally at 14 left to join the carnival. Next brother down, my brother Tim, he's a genius. He's a professor of theoretical chemistry at Texas A&M University. Tim is one of my heroes because he grew up doing exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a chemist when he grew up. Who the hell wants to be a chemist? I'm just like, really? You want to be a chemist when you grow up? So we're getting balls, we're getting all the baseballs and all this when we're growing up, and he asked for a chemistry set. I'm like, more power to you, because he's doing exactly what he wants. My brother Dan was my best friend for years. I won't go into the story about why he's not my best friend anymore. But let's just say, well, my wife is my best friend, so that's one reason. So we had an incident, but he is a vice president who runs hotels on the West Coast, and then there's me. So I've had a lot of careers. When I came into high school, I was 5'1", and I was 83 pounds. And I got picked up when I turned out for wrestling. I turned out for wrestling because the only thing I was worse at than wrestling was wood shop. Back when I was going to school, you had to take a shop class. For some reason, I signed up for wood shop. The wood shop teacher was the wrestling coach. So I got an A in wood shop by becoming a wrestler. I went 2-15. I got my butt kicked pretty much every match. However, my shoulder blades wouldn't touch at the same time, so I had to wrestle all 6 minutes every one of my matches. The only great thing was the guy who was wrestling ahead of me was a worse wrestler than me. He got pinned all the time. So did we want to lose 6 points to the team we were wrestling against, or 4 points if I wrestled? Because I wasn't going to get pinned. I'd get beat 20-3 because they would just then start practicing takedowns on me. Because again, I'm 5'1", I'm 83 pounds. Right? So I wrestled 101. Everybody outweighed me by 15 pounds. However, I was the only guy on the wrestling bus who didn't spit all the way down to the Tri-Cities. I was growing in Yakima. I get to eat. Everybody else on the wrestling bus hated me. They're all running in sweats, and sweat's pouring off them, and they're spitting in the aisles, and rivers of spit going up and down the bus, and I'm trying to think, I'm going to get an A in wood shop by doing this. Only reason I did it. Sophomore year, I show up. I'm no longer in wood shop. You have to cut your hair to wrestle. Yeah, believe it or not. I did the hair flip, said, I don't think so. I didn't wrestle ever again. All right. But my best friend, my brother, said, this would be a good time for you to learn how to get high, because that will help you. So this was when I decided this was going to be a good choice for me. So middle of my senior year, I woke up one day and I was tired of being tired, and I said, I should stop doing that. So I basically went through 2 years of school, stoned, getting A's, getting straight A's, because I lived in Yakima. I grown up in Medina. I was a rich kid. At least I thought I was a rich kid. Then my parents got divorced, and it turns out I was a Catholic rich kid. And back when my parents got divorced, Catholics didn't get divorced. When you got divorced, you got kicked out of the church. Not only that, your grandparents on your father's side, who was the actual Catholic, disowned you, and you were never allowed in their house again. So I'm a 6-year-old boy who's never allowed to see his grandparents again. because my parents got divorced, and somehow this turned out to be my fault. So here I am, totally screwed up, 15 years old, I'm covered in zits, long hair, I don't wrestle, I've got a brother who's getting me stoned, and I'm like, what am I gonna do, right? So, I'm not talking to anybody, I'm the kid in the corner, I'm dressed all in black every day. I think I was emo before emo was emo. I'm writing poetry, and it's generally about how much everything sucks. So this is me, and the sophomore year comes up in school, and I go, all right, I'll go in and I'll get my classes. You get an elective this year. As a freshman, all 6 periods were taken care of. As a sophomore, you get an elective. Well, because I was too busy getting baked, and because I really didn't care about life, I was like the last kid. So I had a choice. I could take horticultural gardening, or I could take drama. Well, I'm not about to go out and dig in the dirt, so I guess I got this other one. So I became a drama jock. So I grew, right? So all of a sudden, I'm getting taller. I'm not the little 5'1", 83-pound guy. I also was no longer the little brother. That was cool. I became the younger brother really quick. So being the younger brother has its advantages over being the little brother. So I'm a drama jock, and I'm still totally emo. Right? I'm nothing but a character actor, getting all the leads. All the girls love me. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I got hair down here, and I'm getting all the lead roles, and I'm so emotionally into these roles, and so this is what my life is now looking at. So I'm going to be a star. This is what I'm going to do. So I go into college, community college, not a real college, Yakima Valley Community College, and I'm sitting in my drama class on day 1, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I'm an actor. I'm the best actor West Valley High School has ever put out. So I must be ready for the big show. So I'm sitting there and I'm being all moody in the back, and I got my arms crossed and I'm being cool. And this Mexican guy turns to me from Wapato High School and he says, what's your story? I said, I'm the best actor here. I was the best actor at West Valley High School. Every hand goes up. I was the best actor at Stevenson. I was the best actor at Wapato. I was the best actor at Eisenhower. I was the best actor at Davis. And all of a sudden I'm with all the best actors. Guess what? Turns out I was actually the best actor there. Because I got all the leads. All the lead roles when I was at community college. So I must be a star, because after all, I'm a star in Yakima. Right? So I am killing it. Yakima's this close to Broadway. Right? So I get asked, do you want to be an actor? Of course I want to be an actor, because right now it's been nothing but fun. I got girls. I get the best couch. When we have our drama party, I get to sit on the best couch because I'm lead. So life is fabulous for me, right? And I'm getting my drugs for free because they want the funny guy at the party. So, Sean, you just have to show up, crack jokes, we'll love you. Just get a little stoned and you can entertain yourself. Next thing I know, I'm naked in the living room in Connecticut. I'm auditioning to take a theater role in an off-Broadway production company. And the director says, do it naked. Okay. I'm 2,500 miles away from home, and I'm standing in a stranger's living room naked. Sure, he's not a perv. You know, that's not what this is about. This is about acting. I must do this. So, I finished the audition, and I get back on the Greyhound bus. I came across the country on. I'm on the Greyhound bus, and I'm headed home. Montana is the worst state in the world, by the way. I woke up in Montana, I fell asleep in Montana, I woke up in Montana, I fell asleep in Montana, and finally I was in Idaho. I think I was there for like a week of my life. And I'm thinking about this all the way back on a Greyhound bus. And I think the phrase now is, it just got real, because I get offered a job to go back to Connecticut. You want to work as an actor. And I started looking at the profile of what an actor looks like. By the way, all of the people who head to New York or California, depending on if you want to be a stage actor, which was me, because that's real acting, not that TV stuff, that's not real acting. I was a stage actor, so I was going to be a true thespian, right? So this is what I was going to do, and then I get back and realize all these folks fail. You head out when you're 18 to 25 and you fail, and you end up waiting tables and driving cabs, because it turns out that all those plays are written about a bunch of 40-somethings. They're not written about a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds. So there's like one role that you can get and everybody's competing. So I make this brilliant decision that what I'll do is I'll learn to sing and I'll learn to dance, and I got this great comedic timing, and then in 10 years, I will go back and now I'll make it on Broadway. This is my story. What I was really saying is I didn't have the guts to do it. I didn't have the courage to follow my dream, so I made up a nice story in my head that would allow me to chicken out on what it was I really wanted to do in this life, which was act. Came back and I married, I'd like to say I married my high school sweetheart. I married my best friend's high school sweetheart. I did nothing underhanded, nothing devious. By the way, we're still together. It's been 34 years that we've been married. And she is, in fact, my best friend. And she's another one of my heroes because she built airplanes because she said she could. But I marry her, and then I get a job with a company that's been around longer than Boeing and is locally owned and operated. And employs over 60,000 people now. Anybody have any guesses where I went to work? I'm sorry about that. I went to work at Nordstrom. I went to work at Nordstrom Best at that time. So Nordstrom's was founded in 1899. It's 115 years old. It was founded because of the Alaskan Gold Rush, and I went to work there. And I went to work there because they took my application. It was a job. I'd worked in restaurants for 6 years, and I was tired of carrying trays. So I got a job at Nordstrom because of Mount St. Helens. I'd been working at the Bon Marché for 1.5 years, and I had such promise. I was an assistant manager in men's, and so I was going to kill the world. And then Mount St. Helens went off and blocked up the air conditioning system, and they asked me to go up on the roof and shovel ash. And I told them they could do something that rhymed with ash, or sounded very close to ash. And because of that, my lack of leadership, I was then demoted, but I got a job at Nordstrom, and I went to work there for 22 years. I worked at Nordstrom. And I worked there through no special talent. I worked there because they were paying me, and because it was a good company to work for, and I worked with 14 different Nordstrom family members, and I worked as a salesperson and as a manager for 17 of those 20 years, and then I became a buyer. And you're looking at somebody that I'm probably the 0.1 percentile of people in the world who can tell you more about underwear, socks, belts, wallets, robes, pajamas than anybody you will ever meet. I know about products. I can tell you how to make your belts last longer, that you may never need to buy a belt. I can also tell you how to buy an umbrella that you'll never need another umbrella. I'll tell you that one easy. Don't call Metro and say, I left a black umbrella on the bus, did you find one? You'll never have to buy an umbrella. They've got 2,000 umbrellas just sitting down there. They throw them out every month. Just call Metro. Left a black umbrella on the bus. Did you find one? I'll be by to pick it up. You want a long one or you want a collapsible? You'll get whatever you need. All right. I would tell you the belt tip, but they started to go, why is he taking off his clothes? Because I've got a belt on. I have to actually show you. So I won't do that. Anyhow, so I worked for Nordstrom for 22 years. And then imagine this, my mouth got me in trouble. So I told the vice president that I thought she was an idiot and I no longer worked for Nordstrom. I've been fired from Nordstrom 4 different times, always as a manager. By the way, it's a great company to work for, especially if you are somewhat charismatic and can sell, and I could sell. I was a very good salesperson, actually. And so I kept getting jobs back. Getting fired at Nordstrom is different than getting fired at Boeing. When you get fired at Nordstrom, you only get fired as a manager, and then you go back to being a salesperson for a while, and then you go back into management. Well, the 4th time up the food chain, I became a buyer at Nordstrom, and that was a very cool job. If you can ever become a buyer at Nordstrom, it's a wicked cool job. I got to buy all this stuff, and I got to go to New York, and I got to look at all sorts of stuff from Italy, and it was very fun. And then I made a mistake. I took a job because of money. Purely because of money, I took the next job. And I became what was called a merchandise manager. And if you guys have ever been a Nordstrom rack, I ran all the men's areas for the Nordstrom racks for Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, Hawaii, and Texas. That's a lot of states. That's a lot of time I did not see my family. I spent 100 nights in hotel rooms in my last year at Nordstrom. And when I got fired for the last time after telling the vice president she was an idiot, I went and sat in Blake Nordstrom's office. He's the CEO for Nordstrom. And I was his assistant manager at one time. And I said, Blake, he goes, what happened? When I made the appointment, I didn't know you'd gotten fired. What's going on? I said, well, I know that you can't tell the vice president that you're going to hire me back, so I just want to say goodbye. I'm done. He says, what are you going to go do next? I said, I don't have the slightest idea what I'm going to go do next. I said, I could go build houses in Uganda. I could go back to being a waiter. Who knows what I'm going to do? The reason I was going to build a house in Uganda, I've got a friend who runs an organization that's exactly what they do. Private schools, not houses, sorry. And so I left. I walked away from Nordstrom, and I got home, and I went into a really deep depression. Because in my age group, men are what we do. Closely tied. If you watch guys my age introduce themselves, hi, I'm Sean, what do you do? We don't say, are you married, do you have kids? We don't ask any of that. What do you do? And if you say I'm unemployed, I don't do anything, the look is like, so you're one of those. Right? You're less than a person. So I went into a really deep depression. I was in a total funk. And in the middle of this funk, some old friends said, why don't you go to Mexico with us? We're going to go down for $200. You can get a 5-star resort down in Mazatlan, and we'll go down there and we'll party. Okay, I'm not doing anything else. So I'm in Mazatlan with my lovely spousal unit, who's still working at Nordstrom at the time. And she starts talking to this fat chick in the pool. And she comes over to me and she goes, they're from Seattle, and she's really nice. I said, shut up. Don't talk to them anymore. She said, what do you mean? I said, those are vacation friends. I said, we're 2,000 miles away from home, so they seem really intriguing. But when we get home, they'll want to talk to us. They'll want to be contacted. They'll want to stay in touch. And you'll go, what were we thinking? They sounded fabulous in Mexico, but now we're home. I said, you make vacation friends with people from the East Coast, from people that you never have to see again. And you say things like, we'll stay in touch. And you don't. And then you walk away from them. I said, that's a vacation friend. Those aren't vacation friends. Those are potentially people we could run into again. Right? She goes back and starts talking to her. And I'm just like, oh, for the love of God, I'll see you in the room. So I go to the room and I'm having margaritas, and she goes, they're really nice, they're really sweet people. And I'm just like, oh, honey, you've got to stop. Well, so she doesn't stop. We get back home. The week after we get back home, she's on the phone and she calls this woman. And I come out of the den and she's on the phone talking to this woman. She goes, I'm talking to the vacation friend. I'm like, you're the crazy one. You made the call. You're the crazy vacation friend. So I don't want to be that. So anyhow, she makes friends with these folks and we end up knowing them. And then I go in for a job. I'm still without a job, by the way, and I'm still not happy with the Nordstrom company, and I don't realize any of this is my fault, because how could it possibly be my fault? It's got to be the person who fired me. It's all their fault. It's not my fault. It's not the title's fault. No, how could it be? I'm a swell guy, so it's because it had nothing to do with me running my mouth. It had everything to do with her just being a witch. Right? So that's why I got fired. So here I am, and I decide I'm going to go get a job because my youngest daughter decides she wants to go to college. My oldest daughter does not want to go to college. My youngest has decided she wants to go to college and she wants to go on the East Coast. So I realize I got to go get a job that has benefits so I can cover her health benefits when she's living on the East Coast. So I go into Northwest Airlines. I apply for a job to be a customer service manager, and I walk out and I call the vacation friend, the fat chick in the pool. I say, hey Meg, it's Sean. Can I put your name down on this resume as a reference? Because I know she works in some HR capacity at Boeing. She goes, where do you apply? I said, I'm going to be a customer service manager at Northwest Airlines. She goes, you don't want that job. I said, what do you mean I don't want that job? She goes, they're hiring scabs. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the term scabs. She goes, they're getting ready to go on strike. So you're going to work there 4 months. So they're just hiring temporary replacements, and then they're going to fire you. She goes, why don't you come to work at Boeing? And I go, are you hiring? She goes, well, we need a contractor. We need somebody to come in and do this job. So I started as what's called the gray badge at Boeing. And I come out to work there, and all it is being nice to people. Turns out I know how to do that because I did that for 22 years at Nordstrom. You learn how to be nice to people. I don't know how many of you guys have ever seen the movie Roadhouse, but there's a scene where he says, even when you're kicking their butt, just be nice. Be nice. So I learned how to do that. For people that I really didn't admire too much, I learned how to be nice. Right? So doing this, being nice to people, paid off. So I'm up and I'm giving presentations and I'm welcoming brand new hires to the Boeing company. That was my job. I was the person who handed them their badge and I said, welcome to the Boeing company, even though I hadn't been welcomed to the Boeing company yet, because I'm a contract person, but I'm welcoming them all to the Boeing company. And they would come in, and at the end of the meeting, I'd make all these announcements that if you go to this site, you go here, and if you go to this site, you go here, and you talk to all these people. Well, the organization that Daryl was working for at that time, and that I now work for, a group called Training and Compliance for Boeing, or for Everett site, they sent representatives down. And they had a job come open, and they wanted somebody to teach mandatory training. Exactly what it sounds like, mandatory training to new hires, and they wanted somebody to come up and do that. So they said, you should apply for this requisition. I said, okay, so I applied. I got a call that said, we want you to come out and interview. I said, all right, I'll come out and interview. They hired me. I sat down and they said, what we want you to do, you're going to be an instructor. You're a mandatory training instructor. So the first week, we want you to just watch it. The second week, you're going to co-teach, and the third week, you're going to teach on your own. I said, okay. Actually, no, first 2 weeks, they wanted me just to watch it. The first time to actually get the content, the second time to observe how it was taught, the third time co-teach, and the fourth time I was going to teach on my own. So I watched the first week, and the second week, when she pushes the button that says, this 90-minute video will share the electrical concerns. And I just said, stop. She said, what? I said, stop. I said, as long as I'm with the Boeing company, nobody's ever going to have to sit through that 90-minute piece of garbage ever again. And so, what? Yeah, so I stood up, and I remembered what was in it. And as an instructor, your job is to deliver the course objectives. How you do that can be a myriad of different ways. And amazingly, there was lights right up front. And I had this drama background. So I did what was then started to be called the Sean Show. And if you walked by my classroom, people were laughing all the time. There's 23 videos that people had to sit through. And all of a sudden, everybody goes, have you gone by his classroom? It's like a show. By the time I was done, there was 49 different classes they were having me deliver. These are all horrible web-based classes. They were all just push the button, fall asleep. And that's what was happening when I got there. Push the button, fall asleep. All right? And after I did this for a while, after I completely changed this 1 day to 4 days, because then I took everybody through and taught them about their computer accounts and their benefits, and I gave them this training, after about 10 months, I got tapped on the shoulder, and they said, you want to go do something different? I said, sure, what's up? And it's progressed, and now I sit at the same table as Daryl, and I manage a group of folks called training advisors. Everyone in this room could be a training advisor. Because all you have to do is to be nice to people. Everybody who works for me, we don't have the slightest idea how to build an airplane. That's not what we do. What we do is help you figure out what classes you need, what skills you need to go out and build an airplane. We're nice, we're data miners. We run computers, we run reports. I provide reports to folks like Daryl. I provide reports to all the other managers in the organization so they can go in and say, what am I looking at? What's this employee looking at? So that's what I do at Boeing. I manage that group. I've got the largest group, I think, single group of any of the managers. I have 20 direct reports, and I try to make it fun for them. So that's my career of how I got to Boeing. Restaurants, retail, spent some time doing mortgages. When mortgages, anybody could get one. It was right there as it crashed. And then now I'm at Boeing. Then associated with Boeing about 9 years, 7.5 years direct. So that's my story, and I think if you guys have any, Daryl and I are happy to field questions now. So,
Why did you apply to become an officer?
it would have required effort. I got to the point where I would have actually had to try at that craft. It had been fun up to that point, and now they said, are you serious about this? So I bailed on it. I had no spine. That's why.
And another question is, why did you decide to get into
Why did I? Because the director asked me to. So I was thinking that was what was going to get me the role.
Was that not like a red flag to you? Like getting naked in some stranger's living room?
Should have been. Pretty good observation. You would think, normal intelligence, that would happen. Turns out that he had asked every actor to do that. And what he was doing was trying to unnerve you so that you would, it's basically like what will happen if you get heckled while you're doing a performance? Will you fall apart? So thinking it would rattle you and it would affect the way you deliver your material, that's why he asked folks to do it. Somebody else had back there?
Well, I was just waiting to kind of explain it. I was just wondering if it had any relevance whatsoever to the actual role.
No. Not really.
When did you stop doing drugs?
When did I stop doing drugs? That's a great question. I stopped doing drugs when my wife came to me and said, I am pregnant. And before we bring our child into this house, you will stop smoking dope. And I went, okay, I can do that. So yeah, there's the date. So my daughter was born April 16th of 1986. And I think I stopped April 15th. It was tax day. I was celebrating. So I haven't touched anything since then. And I never did anything harsh, because I gotta be honest with you, your world is terrifying on what's available and, you know, what is considered a gateway drug now, completely not then. Somebody said the word heroin around me, that involved needles and all that, and I totally don't get what's going on today. So, much simpler life I had. What's up?
So, at Nordstrom, after your first firing, and then so 2 firings after your first being hired as a manager, why didn't they just not hire you manager anymore? Was there no?
Well, that's a great question.
Was there no grievance?
Well, that's a fair question. So when the first time I got fired was in 1981. So I'm 22 at the time. I had hired all my friends to come work with me. Bad choice. Right? So when business wasn't good, how do I have that discussion? So what happens, the store manager, still a friend today, she's actually one of my Facebook friends. The store manager said, Sean, you are not the guy we hired. You don't enjoy coming to work. Do you want to go do something else? I said, yes, I want to go do something else. So while I call it a firing, it was definitely a mutual agreement that this was not working out for either one of us. So that's a great thing about that company. I will tell you one life lesson. You will learn far more from your failures than you do your successes. If you fall on your face enough, you'll go, hey, I'm not going to do that again. That hurt, right? So that's why they kept giving me a shot.
Tell them about our Leadership East Side when we failed thing.
Which time?
Yeah, well, the whole idea that you have to celebrate.
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, we've got a rule in the Leadership East Side, what Nate's getting at, that when we fail, that's actually what we share with the group. We can't, because failure means you tried something. If you never fail, it means you never had the courage to try something. So I failed in my attempt to become an actor, basically because I didn't try. I can't even celebrate I failed. So we actually hold up our hands and we say, I failed, and they say, what did you fail at? And it's because we tried something new, we tried something different, we tried something challenging, that we're then allowed to celebrate our failures. So we move past it. All right, so what's up?
After acting, you seem, the way you described yourself is very courageous in choosing a new job.
So what acting did for me, because I, like I said, I was reclusive, I was not this guy. So acting gave me confidence, but some of that confidence can be a lot of false bravado. It's kind of like the bully on the playground. A lot of that is based on actually a very insecure individual. And so because I was able to get up in front of people and make them laugh, that was my escape mechanism. So for years I've used humor to not face real issues. That's what works for me. I'll crack a joke because again, it's about to get serious. I'm about to have a real conversation. So if I can crack wise, that gets me out of that. That gets them to laughing, and now I can deflect what it is they really want to talk about.
Hey,
So I've used that for years.
I want to ask a question of Daryl real quick.
All right.
I didn't catch it in your, maybe you said it. You got a GED? Is that right?
I got it. I graduated.
You graduated from high school you graduated with the diploma.
I had weekly meetings with my vice president. We knew each other. And so then I had to have a meeting with my principal. And because the fact of the matter was I was a little bit bored in school, and they said I had to take specific classes. And I took those specific classes, your science, your math, and things of this nature. So they said I still needed credits to graduate. So I said, okay. So it was January, and my last half of my senior year, and I went to 6 classes, and I quit 3 of them. And after I quit 3 of them, vice principal called me in the office and goes, what's going on, Daryl? You're not going to graduate. And I said, well, give me the classes I want. I said, I'm not going to go sit in these classes because I'm not interested in what you have to teach. And so anyway, I went to work as a janitor, and I cleaned the cafeteria. And I got 2 credits for that because I had fulfilled all my requirements. But I wasn't going to go sit in classes, so we negotiated a plan. And so I went ahead and cleaned the cafeteria 2 2 periods out of the day. I took PE twice a day, and I took a really cool class called Model Building. And Chuck Noyes, and I'm going to say that, Chuck Noyes, he was the teacher. So there's going to be certain people throughout your life that's going to impact you, and you're going to remain friends, you're going to know their name. Chuck Noyes had a model building class, and it was such that I took that class and ran with it in the military and at Boeing. And what it meant was we came in with really cool models. Okay, so it could be car models that the engine ran. It could be planes with a rope rigging and the sails. So it was all these type of things that took some imagination to put together. But you worked off an installation plan. You worked off the parts themselves, which had a part number. You worked off a drawing, and that's how you built something. And so we would go in there, and I also took drafting class from them too, but we'd go in there and learn that concept about taking an installation plan, sequential order of build, the drawing and the parts, and put it all together. And so that was one class I took. So anyway, and that allowed me to graduate, but I was going to graduate on my terms.
And just to add to that next question, so somebody with a GED and skills like you developed comes to Boeing. What is the expected money someone could make in having your skills, having your background, having no college degree, but being very skilled in what it is you know how to do?
Yeah, so you can start out, you'll start out at a lower rate. Okay? So you'll start out about 16 bucks an hour, but then in 6 years, you're going to take that $16 an hour, you're going to double it. Now you're making over $37 an hour. Now if you take in overtime, because there is still a percentage of your time that you're going to be spending there on the weekends and after hours to build the planes. And that's not built in, but it's just a reality. And so all of a sudden, now you're making a lot more. And then all of a sudden, 20 years in, it's a 6-figure income at Boeing after 20 years is very doable. It's very doable.
Yeah, so I think the number I saw the most, so my wife is what's called a grade 4 mechanic, and that's standard. The majority of what we hire is a grade 4 mechanic, and she's now a journey person, which means she's been there 6 years, and so she's going to be making $34.87 an hour, multiplied by 2,080 hours in a year, so you're going to get over $70,000. I think we figured it out. It's actually 36.87, not 34. Sorry, 36.87. So she's going to make just shy of 74,000 with no overtime, and nothing other than Boeing teaching her how to build an airplane and her work ethic. She shows up every day and she does her job every day and she makes that. And if she wants, here's another great thing that a lot of I didn't give the Boeing pitch. They'll pay for any education. So if she wants to go out and learn how to be a photographer, she wants to take cooking classes, she wants to learn how to blow glass, or she wants to learn to be a truck driver, a bartender, or go and get a degree in economics, she can do any of that at Boeing, and they'll pay for the education. But it does take that you have some drive, because it means you're going to be going on your off hours to school. But Boeing will pick up the tab for it. So if that becomes economically one of the few ways you can afford college, Boeing is willing to do that with you.
So I think we have time for one more question. If anybody has one more, right here.
Is there an age requirement for filming?
Typically 18.
Is there like a physical requirement?
Depending on the job, yes. Depending on the job, yes.
Okay, we'll do one more.
Is it uncommon for someone 18 to be hired there?
No, it's not uncommon. I got friends that started there at 19, and so this one gentleman, man, he's a sharp guy, right? But he started at 19, kind of wet behind the ears, and he's 55 now, so he could actually retire. And I meet with him occasionally. I'm going, dude, you're not going to retire, because I don't want to lose him. Because I like my job, so I'm going to hang out for a while longer, and I don't want a bunch of people retiring on me. And so, no, 19. The things that you're learning right now, you can take, and you can take that experience and transfer it over and into industry. And if aerospace is an industry, I tell you what, the reason I'm talking about aerospace is the fact that you got over 5,000 planes to be built, and the next 20 years is solid. And the thing of it is we've got such an aging workforce at Boeing that in the next 10 years, 3/4 of people are going to retire.
And we anticipate that we'll hire, just through attrition, because of our aging workforce, 2,000 people a year to build airplanes.
Yeah, it's huge.
Just at the Everett site. There's a job that's called being a sealer, that if you're small, and you're not claustrophobic and you can crawl into a tank and you got an artistic bent, you like to do art, you can become a sealer. The seal is an art. It's an art form because you have to put it on in such a way that it completely does the job, but if you just glob it on, it adds to the weight of the airplane and costs the airplane more. And Boeing actually has to pay a penalty. If we sell an airplane to a customer, we tell them it's going to weigh between here and here. If it weighs more than that, we have to pay a penalty because they have to pay for it gas. Every time that plane flies, it creates a drag, additional drag and additional weight. And so the cost of gas goes up.
So just to say that about sealing, one day that we needed to hire some sealers, but they didn't have sealing background, so we hired cake decorators. It's kind of funny, right? But you think about that, they could run a bead of icing. If they can run a bead of icing in an artistic fashion on a cake, they can do that with seal on it. And that's why we hired them.
And we've hired a bunch of guys out of auto body shops who do the finishing paint to paint the airplanes. Those have become our next series of painters. Slightly bigger than a Chevy.
Well, we're about out of time. If you guys still have questions, feel free to come up afterwards. But can we give Sean and Daryl a round of applause?